Hello! I was kindly commissioned by a friend to paint a picture of a round, fluffy bumblebee. The catch, though, is it had to be on a 4x4 gallery canvas. This means it's basically a cube. Well, challenge accepted. And here it is! It being a gallery canvas, it's half as wide as it is tall. It's more wood bracing inside than it is material. But let's give it a try. Who's a cute little canvas? Yes, you are, you cute little canvas. Yes, you are. First, I scribble all over the back of my sketch with a pencil. This is so I can transfer it later to the canvas. And just when I think my wrist is about to give out, I can reveal the sketch. There he is. Now I take that sketch and I place it over top of the canvas that I'm working on, and I draw over my lines so that I can transfer it down and then work from it from there. Then I can pull it off and we're ready to start painting. Well, as ready as I'm going to be. I've also drawn some extra lines on the sides because I'm going to paint the sides of this canvas. Being a gallery canvas, I want it to look really nice on the wall because you're going to see the sides. And I'm going to paint the sky first. Basically it's the background, and everything else I'm painted over top of it. And this way I find if I get a nice flat background, I can get nice clean edges on the things I'm going to put on top. I'm trying to keep this paint as smooth as possible as I put it down, and it's going to take multiple layers, usually about 3 to 4, to get it as opaque as I like. Also, on top of this, I'm trying to keep my edges, the edges around things, as clean as possible. Now, it's not always, possible to make no errors at all. There's going to be mistakes as I go. But I find if I'm clean and tidy here, then it's going to be a lot easier later on. Mistakes will happen. I'm going to correct them, but I'll try to be as careful as possible. I also want to get this paint as flat as I can. I'm going to try to smooth out all the rumples. There's going to be rumples. I'm working best. This is why I'm doing this by hand, so there's going to be rumples. But I want to keep it as tidy as possible. Now I've taken my brush that has given up on life, and I'm going to use it to dry brush all over the edges of these clouds. I want to give it kind of an airbrushed sort of look as I go. Don't use a good brush for this. Use a brush that's pretty much dead. I'll also probably paint over the white part of that cloud. I know that I could just leave it the color of the gesso that's already on it, but I find it's best practice to paint over all surfaces, even if you're just painting white on white. That way all the paint is the same, and it's going to age the same. Not that this is probably going to be a painting that's going to hang in the Louvre, but, you try to be nice. Dabbing on some white, making sure that I've got all the areas covered. I don't need a good brush for this part because it's not very precise. I've also put a little highlight on, and I've gone back and cleaned up some of that dry brushing on the blue. And I've already kind of painted the eyes on with a blue placeholder. That is going to be colored in purple later. The reason I'm using purple is I wanted to use a blue backlighting on the bottom of that bee. And my whole painting instructor told me ages ago, don't leave any orphan colors. That is, don't leave a color that shows up only one spot on a painting and nowhere else. You can do that, I find, if you're highlighting something or spotlighting something. But in this case, I don't want them to go, oh look, there's a pair of eyes and the bee. I want them to see the eyes as part of the bee. So I'm going to use purple on the eyes and purple on that kind of backlit section. Again, each section here is going to take about 3 to 4 color coats of it to make it that nice flat color that I want. Around the eyes, I'm trying to be neat and tidy as I go. Again, I'm going to make mistakes, but the more careful I am here, the easier it'll be for me later. Let me see, I'd be disappear, I'm getting more paint to cover it up. Following this edges, I'm not going to do a lot of his external fur and fuzzies at this stage. I'm just getting a good base color on every area. That's kind of my process, is to get good flat colors first, and then go back and figure out all the highlights and where the shadows are. Very methodical when it comes to this kind of yellow on this side. I wanted to just kind of get out, blocking out the basic colors, building them up, finding where all my edges are. He won't be very fluffy again at this point, but I will be going back and adding the fluffies later because fluffies are going to be kind of transparent anyway on the ends. And here he is! His base coat is all done! Yay, Mr. B! And he's ready to buzz on into the next stage, which is figuring out where all the shadows would go. There he is. He's ready to go, and now the fun part begins. All the fiddly details. I went ahead and skipped ahead on this video. I wanted to do his back end first, so I did that section out. I kind of gave him sort of an outline, just because I found that yellow got kind of lost against that blue. Basically brushing in the little fuzzy spots. It's all little soft fuzzy strokes. Where the highlights would be on that. Or it would be on that, get it? Just see what I did there. Up. Very Bob Ross. And now I'm doing exactly the same process with one of the yellow spots. Back through and bringing the little highlights down over top of that edge. Very sort of slow process, and I may go back in and touch up those shadows too. Oops, put a little too much extra paint on there. I got a little carried away. I was trying to film too long a sequence and I wanted lots of paint. Using this kind of translucent quality of the paint to work for me right now because it's showing some of that behind it so I can easily build up highlights. Now I'm doing the best part, which is his chest fluffies. He's so fluffy. And I'm just, again, doing exactly the same process, just with longer strokes. And he's got kind of a shadow under his chin, because there would be. His head is kind of sitting nested inside those fluffy bits. And you can see on the edges, I've gone back and kind of made little ruffles to show where his edges would be. And now we're going on to the final white highlight. This is the fun bit. It's almost pure white paint, but I want to be very careful. You can overdo it really easily because you want it to be a yellow bee and not a white bee. Here he is, Mr. B! Ready for his big debut. Come on, Mr. B. There you go. And he's all done. Just all we need to do is the final touches. And one of them is going to be the wings. Now the wings are supposed to be transparent. So I outlined them first of all with some white, and I traced little white lines where all the veins in the wings would be. They'd be disappearing. I had to tilt it because it was an awkward angle. And here again with the transparent paint is kind of working with me because I wanted to see through them. But I also want them to be noticeable. So now I've drawn the veins on, and I'm going to go through and paint in the little holes, if you will, like the little windows, where his yellow and black fluffy bits would show through. And it was kind of just a lucky chance that the paint worked so well in this game. That up, and I'm just ever so slightly in there. I don't want to fill this in too dark because I do want people to see the transparent wing. I don't want them to see a solid color. They're not like a window. They're almost kind of misty. And I'm putting in this gray. I made the gray color by mixing some of that yellow with some of that black color, and it came out kind of this gray. And then I thought what I would do is I would just put in a little more definition because that wing was so hard to see against that blue. It's kind of cheating, but I kind of went in and did a little lining. But I guess that would be reflected color. We could argue it is. We could pretend it's reflected color a little bit. And here he is! I put his little leggies on! Don't ask me how this bee ever sits on anything. He just does. And now he's got his little wings, and he's ready to go. Pretty much. And again, you can see those purple eyes, where I put those in because I wanted to have kind of that reflected color put back again in it. I'm going to do a little close-up here so I can show you some of the brush strokes. The purple color descending all the way down in the edges. And there we are. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do not monetize my videos, so if you see any ads on here, that's YouTube's doing, not mine. I hate advertisements. If you'd like to support my channel, you can leave me a tip. I have a PayPal listed in the info below. But again, thank you for watching. You take care now.